Hey guys, it's Haley and welcome to another bookish video. Today we are going to be doing some spooky book recommendations for fall, for the Halloween season, for all of that. And of course, this is going to be mainly horror and thriller books, but I also have just a few spooky picks in there that are not scary or creepy or graphic at all. They're just some spooky reads that you can enjoy if you want that Halloween spirit and the spooky vibes, but you don't like horror or anything too scary. But I also have books on the opposite end of the spectrum that are horrifying and super graphic and have a lot of trigger warnings. Matter of fact, let me go grab another real quick. Okay, I'm back, and I just had to grab Blindsided by Karen Slaughter because if you watched my September TBR, you will know that I was planning on reading the second book in this series. This is Blindsided. It is the first book in the Grant County series. Obviously, I've already read it and I'm going to recommend it to you shortly. But if you watch my September TBR, I will link it everywhere if you haven't watched it yet. I planned on reading the sequel to this, and I'm sad/happy to say that this series has completely taken over my life and derailed my entire September TBR. I have almost read nothing on my TBR other than this series. I'm really just giving in to letting myself mood read and not being so strict about what I read, because obviously I read for pleasure, so I like making TBRs. I think they're fun, but not sticking to them. Sometimes it's fun to get like carried away and whisked into a series, and this one definitely did that for me this month. If you like super graphic, creepy thrillers that will dig into your mind and make a home there and like show up when you least expect it, like when you're about to go fall asleep or walk your dog in the middle of the night, this one, this is for you. This is possibly the spookiest of all spooky books because it is horrifying and it feels like real life. If you're the type of girl where you're like, I watch horror movies at night alone, nothing scares me, that is very much like me, you need to read this book. I guarantee you it will horrify you, and so will the rest of the series, but obviously you would need to start here with the first book, Blindsided by Karen Slaughter. It follows a string of murders and the town sheriff and his ex-wife, who is actually the town doctor / coroner, and another cop are on the hunt trying to catch this serial killer. There's a lot of drama, there's in-depth character development where you get to learn about their dynamics, and you really care about the characters in Karen Slaughter books always, but this one is just so freaking good and so creepy. If you're looking for a Halloween read that will absolutely terrify you, Karen Slaughter is just the queen of gross, horrifying imagery. This is the one. But be forewarned, you might read this entire series in a month and derail your entire reading plans. The next book that I would recommend to you guys is The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. This is a thriller, but I don't think it's too scary. It's more of like a gothic mystery. So if you're looking for something not as creepy, I think you could definitely handle this. It's mostly the story of this haunted or just creepy mansion where all of these rich people live, and they're about to get their inheritance from like the matriarch of the family who's passed away. And meanwhile, our main character gets a letter saying that she is actually the grandchild of this very wealthy person who passed away, and she gets part of the inheritance, although none of the other family members know who she is. So she's like, yeah, I don't know these people at all. I'm pretty sure they have the wrong gal, but I'm gonna go try to collect on this inheritance anyway because I'm broke as hell. And honestly, as a grad student making $0.00, I 100% identify with that. If I got a letter in the mail that was like, yo, a billionaire put you in the will, and I was like, I think they probably mean another Haley Hughes. you bet your bottom dollar I would still show the fuck up. Like, no, I would be trying to collect on that, and that's exactly what our main character does. So it's just the story of her going through this, trying to figure out the mystery of if she's actually connected to this family or if she's just scamming them. I thought it was pretty good. It's not my favorite of Ruth Ware's thrillers, but it's definitely one of her most loved. People seem to really love this. I love the cover. I love that it's a gothic thriller. So definitely great for October and just the fall season in general. Next up, you probably knew that this was coming in this video. I would recommend every single Riley Sager thriller. These two in particular, I think, are great to read in October. So if you're planning your October TBR, participating in some readathons, cough, cough, Spooktober, these two would be great to read for that. Also, I know one of the prompts for Weekend Ween is to read a book with green on the cover, so this is an option for that as well. These are very quick reads, really engrossing, page-turning thrillers, and I get scared by both of these. They're very much isolated, haunted house settings, and they both have really great plots, great twists. If you're looking for super twisty, spooky thrillers, these would be great for you. And obviously, I recommend every single one of Riley Sager's books. I have a whole video where I rank all of his books that he's ever written in his life. If you haven't seen that, again, I will link that one so you can check it out and get the full synopsis and review for every single one of his books. These are my two picks though for spooky season. Going more to the traditional horror side, I would recommend The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. Stephen Graham Jones is one of my favorite horror authors ever, so I highly recommend this one. It was super creepy and haunting. It was also like kind of like a creature feature, so if you like that kind of horror trope, you will definitely like this book. It follows a group of Native American boys, and they accidentally, or not so accidentally, killed an elk out of season, and one of the boys feels like the elk is coming back and haunting them, hunting them down, and a bloody slasher ensues. Stephen Graham Jones is also really great at infusing that dark humor into his horror books, and I absolutely love this one. I mean, he just doesn't miss. It was so good, especially if you like I said, the like creature, creepy vibes, very Halloween, or if you're trying to diversify your reading as well. Stephen Graham Jones is an Indigenous author himself, and I don't see a lot of Native American representation in the horror thriller genre, so we love to see it. The next recommendation I have for you is a little bit more low-key, definitely sinister, and more of a psychological thriller. So I would recommend The Housewarming by S.E. Lines. I actually read this as an ARC a while ago, and it totally surprised me. I did not expect this at all, but she came out swinging. I mean, this book is so good. It is more of a domestic thriller, but it's so psychological. It's not really focused on the like neighborhood drama and activities. That's obviously a part of it because it is a domestic thriller, but I was really intrigued by these psychological elements where you feel like you're being gaslit along with the main character. You feel like you're being misled. You feel like people aren't listening to you and people think you're crazy when you're actually not. You know the truth, and oh my God, it's a crazy ride. It follows this mother who had just moved into this house, had a baby. She was getting her life together and starting out her life as a young mom, like goes out to the car for 5 minutes to grab something and just leaves her daughter in the stroller, like in the entryway, comes back and the stroller's there, her daughter isn't. And obviously that is a huge tragedy. There's a lot about grief in this book, especially grieving after a tragedy, very complicated, prolonged grief. And then we flash to a year later when her neighbors are having a housewarming party. She's been really depressed, grieving for the past year. She does not want to get up and go to this damn party, but her husband really encourages her to go. And while she's there, she hears a comment said by one of the neighbors that makes her rethink that day a year ago when her daughter was taken from her. So, super creepy, super spooky, very psychological, highly recommend. Another psychological pick is The Patient by Jasper DeWitt. This is also very much that vibe of you feel like you're going crazy as you're reading it. You are feeling so frustrated right along with the characters. And the ending of this book is insane. It is very spooky. You don't know if it's like a paranormal possession thing or if it is a psychological brain thing, like somebody's just going crazy and is a serial killer, or if they're possessed by a demon. But basically there's this patient in this mental institution that nobody seems to be able to work with. Every single therapist that has worked with him just hasn't worked out. They've either died, killed themselves, or just completely failed with this patient and ran away, moved across the country. Nobody can cure him, basically. And a new hotshot psychologist says, you know what? I'm gonna try it out. And we follow his journey doing that. It is so creepy. This is a really great horror book, especially if you like really hard-hitting twists and social commentary in your horror/thriller books. Another book by Stephen Graham Jones, one of my favorite horror books. I read it in a vlog earlier this year, is Night of the Mannequins. This is a very teeny tiny novella about a group of middle schoolers who think it would be funny to bring a mannequin into the movie theater, buy him a ticket as if it's a patron. You know, it's middle school humor. It's a very funny little prank, harmless, adorable. Except that mannequin, after the movie ends, gets up and walks away on his own. So is he real? Is he possessed? Who knows? I don't want to give away too much because this is such a short book, but if you're looking for a super creepy, very spooky bloodbath slasher, this is the one. It's also from the perspective of a middle school boy, so like, what could be better? It's hilarious. Next up, I have a spooky mystery that is definitely not scary in the slightest, and that is Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. And this one is a chunk, like it's very big, but it's super atmospheric and fall-like. It's also like a spooky mystery within a mystery. So if you're looking for those fall vibes, you want to get into the Halloween spirit, but you don't want to be scared, this is definitely one I would recommend picking up. It's about a famous mystery author, think Agatha Christie, who killed himself allegedly. But his publishing agent does not believe that he would ever do that. So she's trying to find the answer of why he possibly did this or who could have possibly done this by reading his newest draft of his last book he ever wrote before he passed. So about half of the book is the modern day mystery, and then the other half of the book is a very Agatha Christie style mystery of the book that this author wrote before he allegedly killed himself. So it's very interesting, very convoluted, very mysterious, and perfect for the fall season. Going back to the darker side a little bit, because you know I have to, I would recommend Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. I just love the cover of this book and the deckled edges. Scott Thomas can honestly do no wrong. In my mind, I absolutely freaking loved Kill Creek. It's also about authors. A group of world-renowned horror authors spend the night in this haunted house as this kind of like PR kitschy kind of event, but it ends up going off the rails. If you're looking for kind of a modern twist on the classic Shirley Jackson style haunted house tale, Kill Creek is amazing. It's super dark. It reminds me of Night Film by Marisha Pessel in that way where you feel like you are in it with the characters. You're feeling disoriented. You're feeling chaotic. So good. Next up, I have to recommend The Grownup by Gillian Flynn. This is one of my favorite books ever. It is phenomenal, an easy 5-star. And again, it's so tiny. These little horror novellas I think are just so fun. And look at the back. You like ghost stories? Like, are you kidding me? This is the cutest book ever. So aesthetically pleasing, perfect for Halloween. It's about a creepy kid and a former hand job expert, yes, that is her job title, who turns into a medium. And I'm just gonna leave it at that, because I think you need to go in like pretty blind for this one, but know that it's one of my favorite books and you will not be disappointed for the spooky factor if you read it. Last fall, I actually read this next book and it became quickly one of my very favorite books I've ever read, and that is I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. And this, how do I even describe this? This is like part existential horror, part very isolated setting. I don't even know how to describe the plot though. Basically, this couple is going to see the guy's parents. You know, she's meeting them for the first time. It's supposed to be this fun thing, and things end up going really wrong. She's thinking she's wanting to end things with him the entire car ride out to visit his parents. They live on this very isolated farm. It's very creepy. There's a lot of spooky imagery in here. I think this would be a perfect Halloween read because it is so crazy. Like if you want to get scared, but then also have it like mean something, because I have a lot of like extrapolations about what this book means and how the ending was supposed to be. Yeah, I don't know. I just think this is great. It's another psychological thriller. It's so good. If you want my like full thoughts and review going really in depth, I think I talked about this book for like 20 minutes or something crazy like that. I have a full video talking about it and comparing it to the movie. I did watch that. Spoiler alert, I hated it. But if you want to watch that video, I guess I'm just linking everything today. Go ahead and watch it. Getting back into the spooky mystery realm, this one isn't as creepy. You know, it still has those horror vibes, but it's more of a quiet, understated horror. And that is The Nesting by C.J. Cook. This one is very similar to Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, or the show The Haunting of Bly Manor. Both of those and The Nesting as well, all three of them are based on The Turn of the Screw, which is a classic horror story. So obviously they all have very similar plots. If you like one, chances are you will like the rest. The Nesting follows this nanny who moves in to watch these creepy little kids for this fancy rich architect widower whose wife actually killed herself on the property where she's going to be watching the kids. Super creepy, super Bly Manor vibes. Just freaking read it. Just read it. It's really good. It's really creepy. There's nothing else I can say. It's good. Next up, we have The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. And debatably, this one might be better for the winter because it does take place at a snowy, like ski resort location. But I also think it has that like creepy mystery vibe that I'm looking for in October. So if you like, you know, a modern Agatha Christie style story and that's what you're wanting for the fall time, this would be perfect for you. It's about, I think, 10 friends who go on this vacation together into the remote Scottish wilderness and end up getting snowed in, and they're getting picked off one by one. You're trying to figure out who is the murderer, why they're doing it, what is happening, and all of these characters are extremely unlikable, but very fun. I thought this was a super intriguing, quick, fun read, and just a creepy little mystery. I would also recommend The Guest List by the same author. Very similar plot, but make it an Irish wedding. Next up, we have another slasher, and I think the only YA book on this list, and that is Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesare. I'm gonna go with that. This follows a girl who moves to a small town. She's obviously the new kid there, and things are not seeming great. She's having a hard time adjusting, and the adults in the town are blaming the kids for everything that's going wrong, whereas the kids are acting out and our new girl, our main character, is just kind of caught in the middle of this weird small town going through this like time of change where everyone is blaming each other. There's a lot of political commentary in here, debatable if it was done well. In my personal opinion, it wasn't the best, but if you're into that, you might be into this. It is also a slasher, like very traditional Halloween, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre style slasher in book form. So if you're looking for a YA horror that delivers on the slasher and has some light political commentary, this would be a good one for you. Getting into the last couple recommendations here, I recently read Finley, Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano, and I absolutely freaking loved this book. I adored it. It is a little bit slower paced, which is different for me and all my crazy horrifying thrillers that I love. But surprisingly, I still enjoyed it despite it taking me a little bit longer to read and a little bit slower pace. Our main characters are just so fun, especially Finley herself. I could read from her all day long, and I'm actually right in the middle of the sequel to this book as well. I got an ARC copy of it, so I'm very excited to keep reading this series. It is definitely spooky and creepy, but not in a super graphic, scary way, more in a funny, mysterious, you're along for this quirky ride with our characters kind of way. So if you don't like horror, definitely pick up this one. It follows an author who is talking about the mystery book that she's writing with her agent in a Panera Bread, and the woman sitting behind her overhears the situation, misunderstands, and thinks Finley Donovan is a hit woman. So she gives her the information of her husband and wants Finley to go kill her husband for her. And she's gonna pay her. And Finley's a single mom and really needs that money. So things ensue. It is so fun, such a fun ride. The characters are so well thought out. You really care about them. And it delivers on the spooky Halloween fall vibes without being scary. Finally, the last recommendation I have for you is the Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. I actually have not read this book. This is going to be on my personal October TBR, but I know so many of my friends absolutely love this book, especially Sahar from Basically Bookish Reads. She's talked about this book a ton. I know that she gave it 5 stars. This is like a super ghosty, haunted book, so it sounds perfect for Halloween. It is a dual timeline following this girl who worked at the Sundown Motel in the 80s and mysteriously disappeared, and then her niece in present day who decided to carry on the family tradition, work at this hotel, and investigate her aunt's disappearance. I've heard great things. I'm super excited to get to this one, and let me know down below if you have any recommendations for me to add to my October TBR. I'm looking for more creepy stuff because, as you can see, I have read a lot of it already, and if you have any more spooky fall book recs for me, I would love to have them down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you got some good recommendations out of it, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!